My name's Ryan, and you're watching That Random Geeky Guy. Well, thank you everybody for joining me today. I'm doing a kind of overview of my setup and what I use on a daily basis, primarily for gaming. So first things first, thank you for everybody for their recent comments, likes, subscriptions to my channel. We've also recently gone through quite a large segment of budget builds. And whilst I would consider this a good value build, it kind of fits what I want to use it for, it probably wouldn't be considered a budget build. But nevertheless, I want to kind of get into it and talk through all the different bits and pieces that I'm using. So I guess let's get started. We'll start with the actual PC itself. Actually, rather than me kind of sat here, let's get some close-up kind of glam footage of what that looks like. So we're using a Ryzen-based system, which is probably not a huge surprise to people at the moment. Obviously, my recent budget builds using used parts have been focused on using older generation Intel processors. But in terms of the current generation, Ryzen seem to be kind of running away with it at the moment. Anyway, this is using a Ryzen 3600 sat on an Asus Strix B450F gaming motherboards. These two things are probably the only two things that might change soon in the setup, and we might see some upgrades to the new 5000 series and maybe a change to an X570 board. Other than that, we've also got a Samsung Evo 970 Plus boot NVMe SSD, so that is just used literally as the boot hard drive. Down under the PSU shroud you'll find 3 4TB hard drives, which is used for game storage, Plex, so on and so forth. You'll notice cooling is taken care of with an AIO, so it's a Corsair, I think it's a H110, I could be wrong, but I think it's a H110 in terms of AIO cooling over a 240mm RAD, and it does the job. It's pretty good actually. Then from a GPU perspective, we've got a RTX 2070 Super. I have no intention of changing for a 3070-3080. This perfectly fits my needs and what I'm actually using it for. Finally, the last sort of bits and pieces that you'll see is cooling. So beyond the actual AIO, there's also SP120 Corsair case fans, which are RGB. You've got to have that RGB goodness. We all know that. Some custom sleeve cables, just to kind of match the theme there, which kind of sits between blue and green within the actual PC itself. And we've got 32 gig of Corsair Vengeance 3200 megahertz RGB Vengeance RAM in its lovely little kind of rain pattern there, which looks cool in my opinion anyway. All of this is sat inside of the NZXT case, which I've recently done a video on in terms of the build to switch over from the Corsair Carbide into the 510 case that you see here. So that's kind of the brain of the operation. That's what's kind of running every bits and pieces. I must say actually, before I kind of go into some of the other bits that are in the setup, if you've got any comments or questions on any of the hardware here, any suggestions from your kind of own experience, please stick it in the comments section below. Anyway, moving on from there, I'm just going to kind of move away from the shot slightly here so you can see some other bits and pieces. Headset wise, again, I've done a video on this headset prior to this one, which is a Razer Kraken Tournament Edition. Actually, for those who were following Prime Day, they were actually on a really good offer on Prime Day recently. I was really tempted to buy another set in case these ones ever go wrong, but unfortunately by the time I got there, the only ones that were left were the bright Razer green ones, which don't really kind of fit what I want, which kind of sounds strange when I've got some green lighting, but I just don't want that in terms of lack of flexibility of changing colours in the future. The headset itself is actually fantastic. I really like it. Really, really comfortable ear cuffs. The tournament edition comes with, over on this side here, you can just see it in shot, is just a small little USB audio interface, which works really well. And yeah, you can kind of adjust the difference between game volume and speech volume if you're using Discord, so on and so forth. And yeah, for the money, they're exceptionally good value, because on the whole, you can normally pick these up. Whilst their RRPs like 100 quid, you can normally pick them up for about 60, 70 quid. And for that price, they're brilliant. So works really, really well. The monitor's actually a recent addition. So for those of you who've seen my previous videos, I did do a video of my previous monitor, which was a BenQ Zowie 24-inch, 144Hz TN panel gaming monitor, which, by the way, is a great monitor. I just thought it was time to kind of step things up now. So this is an Acer Nitro. It's 144Hz, 1440p rather than the 1080p, which the 2070 Super has no issue at all in pushing those pixels. But the big difference here as well, though, is that it's an IPS panel, so you get better color reproduction, in my opinion, than the TN panel that was in the previous model. But yeah, it's still got a 1 millisecond response time. So yeah, it's a great monitor. It's got basic HDR support, and yeah, something I really like. I will do a full review of this at some point in the future. So again, if you've got any questions of the monitor, stick it in that comment section below, and I'll be sure to include that in the review of the monitor itself. Sat up on top is a webcam. I don't do game streaming at the minute, but in this current day and age, I'm working a fair bit from home and actually using things like Zoom and Microsoft Teams meetings. It required a webcam. So it's a, what is it? It's a Logitech C920, which actually is pretty decent. It's a 1080p webcam, but it's good quality. It's got a little privacy shield on it, which kind of flips up and down. And yeah, it's a decent quality webcam. They're about 80 quid and seem to work quite well. Anyway, moving on to the keyboards. I've had a few different keyboards in the past. When I very first kind of built my first setup, it was kind of very budget orientated. And I had the typical kind of cheap mechanical Chinese keyboard off Amazon, like 40, 50 quid. Came with blue switches, so it was loud as hell, annoyed people who I was playing with, and annoyed my wife because it was loud. I'm just kind of in a box room at the back of the house for the gaming room, but the sound of blue seems to still travel quite well, so just bear that in mind when you come to buy a keyboard. But when we moved over to the NZXT case, a lot of upgrades took place. Actually, the whole system pretty much, the new monitor, keyboards, a mouse. And the keyboard I'm using here is a Corsair K65 Alux keyboard, full addressable RGB, running on cherry red switches. So they're more of a linear switch, there's no click, so they're a little bit quieter. They're not... still make that kind of bottom out noise, but other than that, you haven't got that click, which is pretty good. The keyboard itself is absolutely fantastic. The iCUE software that you run the Corsair stuff, it also can control the Corsair fans, the RAM, so on and so forth. I actually find of all of the softwares that actually, so far, my favourite is definitely iCUE. Like I've got Aurora software for the motherboard, and that's okay. It's not bad, but I do certainly think the iCUE software is better. And I've just got a kind of a breathing effect between blue and green, which is my current colour theme at the moment. And also you get kind of a pulse of violet when you hit a key going out across the keyboard as well, which I really like. It's quite cool. It's a bit different. The K65 is 10 keyless, so you haven't got the numpad on the end. So that was kind of intentional. So you'll notice it's quite a slim desk that I'm using here, and whilst it's fairly wide, I wanted to have as much space as possible for the mouse because I don't want the computer sat on the floor. Hence why you kind of see the setup in this way. So dropping the number pad off the end, which I didn't really use to be honest, freed up a lot of space, which was cool. And I say more on the keyboard. You've got a pass-through USB on the back. You can adjust the polling rate, so on and so forth. It's a metal deck. The K65, K70 with the numpad on the end, they're great keyboards anyway. You don't need me to tell you that. But yeah, definitely something I recommend. Would happily buy one again. Absolutely fantastic. The mouse here is a recent change actually. So I was using a I'll just click on something there. I was using a Death Adder Elite from Razer previously, but this is the Basilisk one. It's their new one, the version 2, and I much prefer the grip on that to the Death Adder. So it really molds your hand very well. You've got adjustable speeds, adjustable traction on the click wheel as well, so it's quite customizable, and it sits into the color theme as well. That is controlled by their Chroma software. But again, that kind of fits and works pretty well. Everything's sat on this VictorSync RGB large mouse mat here. It was part of the budget build, to be honest, but it's actually quite decent. All of this stuff, by the way, I will stick links to it from our Amazon associate links down in the description. So if anything kind of takes your fancy, there are links down there to be able to make your purchases. But yeah, this is RGB. I've currently just got it set to blue around the outside, but you can scroll through all different colours, so on and so forth, and it's not very expensive. It's a pretty decent mouse mat anyway. And then just tucked away underneath the monitor is an Xbox One controller, which I just used for Rocket League and Forza. So yeah, that's just all kind of set up into what you see here. Now, stuff that you can't see, internet connection, really, really important for me because of uploading videos. I don't just do this for YouTube, I upload videos for work and other bits and pieces. I'm quite lucky to be in an area in the UK outside of kind of major cities, so I live in quite a rural area, but I'm actually in an area where I get gigabit internet, which is quite rare. Viewers from the UK will confirm that. It's really, really unusual to find gigabit internet in the UK. I say gigabit, it's about 960 meg down and about 120 meg up, and I pay, I think, about £55 a month for that, but it works really well for me. I run a Plex server which I can use remotely and say uploading videos and then just generally using the internet, downloading, being able to stream really high quality content. Downstairs in the living room we've got a Samsung QLED 4K TV. It's nice to stream everything in 4K with no challenges whatsoever because of that internet connection. The reason I mention it though, it's tucked behind me here, is part of our mesh Wi-Fi. So believe it or not, this could be a bit of a red herring for people, but this computer is not connected hardwired to the router. This is connected to this terminal as part of the mesh Wi-Fi. It means I still get about 500 meg, and it's, you know, latency is not an issue and no problems whatsoever, but it means that I don't have any cables running from here to the router, which is literally downstairs on the opposite side of the house. So this kind of makes sense as a method to use it. Other than that, the room is kind of finished off quite basically. It is a small room, I must admit, but it is finished off with, we've got Philips Hue lighting down behind the desk here, which is just their strip light, currently set to green. We've got some neon tube lighting here, and there's also another one just out of shot to the right here, which is just currently set to blue, and they're just controlled with a normal typical RGB remote, those ones. A couple of audio panels up on the wall here. Now, these have been made in a way that they're movable, so if I'm shooting somewhere else, I can move those panels. How I've done that is, rather than fixing them to the wall, I've got a large blank canvas from an art supplier's, sprayed it with spray adhesive and sprayed the back of the phone with spray adhesive, and then they're adhered to that, and then they're just clipped onto the wall. That means if I wanted to take them off and take them with me, I can, and I can kind of use them anywhere. So that's kind of a free tip there for you if you're looking to use different forms of audio panels to try and reduce certain reverb and stuff. It still isn't perfect, but it's kind of the solution that I've got so far. So yeah, that's kind of my setup. You'll notice from my wallpaper at the moment, well, you might notice if you're into it, I'm currently playing Rust. Rust is kind of the big game for me at the minute, but other stuff that I do play, things like CSGO, that does happen, GTA, Minecraft, I enjoy all those sort of bits and pieces of games. I don't play Warzone, not really for me at the minute, and I used to play a bit of Fortnite a long time ago, not on the PC actually, I played it on the Switch, but again, I don't play that anymore. But right now the game for me is definitely Rust. I'm kind of late to the game with that, but if you haven't played Rust, I highly recommend you check it out. It's an exceptionally good game. It's not that well optimized, so you do have to have a fairly decent rig to run it, but some of those budget rigs that we've built recently will still run it at kind of low to medium settings. I'm happy to say that this will run it completely flat out on Ultra at 1440p. It might radiate a bit of heat from the system and warm this little box room up, but it does actually play at full flat out Ultra settings. So yeah, that's kind of my setup. I was going to drop in, it isn't much, but it's mine kind of tagline here, but I think we're probably all fed up with that tagline. All I can say is that I'm happy with it. I'm happy with what's there. The only things that I say I might consider changing is the processor and the motherboards when the new 5000 series is available from the 5th of November, so possibly looking at changing that. But beyond that, everything you see here is something I'm happy with. So if you've got any questions at all about my setup, what I do with it, so on and so forth, or any suggestions, I am looking for that as well. Stick those in the comment section below. Other than that, thank you very much for joining me for this video, and I will see you next time.